And did you ever know that you're going to start your own consulting firm?
You know, these are the sort of decisions that you never know what to do. If somebody predicts that in 5 years they will start their own firm, I'm gonna call BS on that.
Qualities you look in early stage startups before the firm decides to invest into them.
What are you trying to achieve? What is that solution going to do? How is that solution going to revolutionize what's done today? Second one is quality of the owners or the management. Who are those people? Are they easy to work with? Are they capable? Are they smart enough? Are they capable of taking business to where we want to go?
What are some common challenges you face when implementing technology into transformation projects in business?
I would say there are three biggest challenges. First of all, the saturation of every organization. There's so many things happening in an environment these days that specifically public sector companies struggle to keep up. The second element I would say is simply the slowly disappearing, but still the fact that technology is not perceived as an enabler, but as a hindrance to delivering services. The third one, and that is probably very specific to my services, is simply lack of skilled workers.
Is there any threat to the workforce, or is just a misconception between the people?
I don't think anybody has a clear and obvious answer to this one. I think Sam Altman changed his mind on this one 3 times in the past year.
What would you say are some principles for effective leadership and team management?
Basic human principles are probably much more important than any leadership strategy or frameworks that you can put in place.
And has it ever happened that when you were working in Toronto, like you went to the office with a bruise on your face because you are involved in these sports?
It happened in Vancouver more than it happened in Toronto, but yes, it did.
What do you have to say about the Canadian startup ecosystem?
I think it's doing better than it was. Canada is a strong, rich country with a lot of funding available to everybody who has great ideas. We're better than most of the places on the planet.
And if you were to be appointed as a government official in charge of enhancing the Canada's startup ecosystem, what decision would you make?
I would probably quit.
Just to begin with, we want to know, how did you found Cromwell Consulting and what motivated you to start your own consulting firm?
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is a great opportunity to share some of my experience with fellow students. Well, I come from a consulting background, and I did consulting pretty much my entire life. I started my career internationally, went for an international internship to India, worked with a local IT and business management consulting firm over there, and did that for a number of years. Had a chance to travel the world and work on very challenging projects with some of very prestigious clients. And afterwards, I did my grad school at UBC and ventured into Big Four consulting firms. From there, I realized that very unique Canadian market, very Toronto and Ontario focused market, is not necessarily something that I want to do, and it's not a place I wanted to associate myself for a longer period of time. So after a quick stint with government and public sector here in Vancouver, I realized that is a niche, that is an opportunity that offers a lot of great opportunities for boutique consultancies. And then I put the two and two together, my experience, the opportunities, the market, and the economy, as well as some of the rapport and relationships that I had a chance to develop over the years, and that's how I started my own boutique firm and started delivering what I knew how to do on my own and on my own accord. It's been it's about 6-7 years already, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
And could you give a time period, like when were you doing that internship in India, I guess?
Yes, so I started doing that in 2006. So that's when I graduated. Oh my God, it feels like a century ago, at least a quarter of a century. So that was the time, and then I graduated from B school at UBC from SOTA in 2015.
And where did you do your bachelor's then? In Canada or somewhere else?
No, I'm originally born in Poland, so I did my school over there. I completed my master's there.
Got it. And did you ever know that you're going to start your own consulting firm?
These are the sort of decisions that you never know what to do. If somebody predicts that in 5 years they will start their own firm, I'm gonna call BS on that. In most of the cases, most of the founders I know, they all started their firms at kind of a spur of the moment. When you work for a firm, most of the time you want to become a partner. You want to have shares, ownership in a large entity. You don't think about starting everything from scratch. It's always a bit of a spur of a moment decision that comes out of very circumstantial decisions, much more than pre-planned something. It's not a skill set that you can ever develop doing anything else. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a person who enjoys doing startups, I can probably say that doing a technology startup may be a much more rewarding, financially rewarding, and much more challenging of an opportunity. So, it's not necessarily a recommended avenue to venture if you're into starting your own businesses.
So, but what motivated you to come to Canada? Because markets in India and Canada are so different. Like, what motivated you to come here, study, and then you start your own firm over here?
Okay, so yeah, again, you know what? A lot of things came into places over the years. India was never an option. I was there only temporarily. Temporarily in my case meant a couple of years, but it was just it was never a stable solution for me. I was working the company that I was working with shipped me over to the US, and I spent some time in the US. The immigration in the US and the overall market and the culture of the place were not necessarily gelling very well with me. I happened to come to Vancouver during the Olympics in 2010. I loved my time here. So, that kind of sparked my thought. Maybe Vancouver was somewhere there on the list. And then at some point I realized that doing an MBA may actually be a really good investment in my career moving forward and a chance to grow as a professional. So at that point, Vancouver again came up. I had a chance to apply here, apply to a couple of other universities, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but UBC came with a sweet scholarship and kind of became a value over value of money decision, and from one thing to another, I settled down in Vancouver. Happened to spend some time in Toronto working for a big four consulting firm over there, but ultimately I knew Vancouver was going to be the place.
Interesting. And if you could share, because different markets, you have been to India, you have to been to US, and now in Canada. How would you say from a professional side, the consumer markets, because their markets are so different. So what have you noticed in terms of consumer behavior and you making the deals and raising funds for the companies?
Yes. Oh, wow. That is a big one. Maybe I'll start with Canada. Canada and Vancouver specifically, it is a market of, I would define it as a market of very small demand and small supply. When it comes to consumer services, but also professional services, it is a market that is very containerized. It is a market that is largely fragmentized, but at the same time, it's a small market where everybody knows each other, and the reputation of a consulting firm, or in my case, a founder of a firm, plays a big role. If we go into Toronto, it's slightly different. Toronto market is very much dominated by large firms. That is not the case in Vancouver here. If, for example, somebody's planning to work for a big four consulting firm, definitely they have to go to Toronto. Now, let's look at the US. That's another step further. The US is, again, a huge market. The big four consulting firms have, but also other consulting firms, established consulting firms have a large footprint in the market, but also there's a lot of opportunities simply by the sheer size of the market. India, well, I mean, I've not worked there for the past 10 years, and I wouldn't want to jump into conclusions about that market. Back 10 years ago, it was extremely fast-paced market, growing at a rapid speed where there was simply not enough of a supply of consulting services. Anybody and everybody could have started a business, run a business, delivered, and make a huge amount of money. Looking at the macroeconomical and demographic data from India from the past year or two, we see that has slowed down. We see high unemployment amongst young people. That's something that I was not familiar with living in India, and we see the fact that simply there's the market's been saturated on many fronts. So economically, probably it's not as much of a thriving environment as it was a number of years ago.
Got it. Because on the flip side, like from a media perspective, even on the research papers, we witnessed that India's GDP is growing like at a massive rate of 8.4%. But you mentioned like the unemployment is also growing. And is it because of the competition that is growing?
GDP again. Personally, and I'm not an economist, but as somebody who is probably a fan of the market and just intellectually curious, I don't believe in GDP as a factor of anything in the economy other than the overall aggregated wealth. If we look at things statistically, a human being and a dog have 3 legs, right? What does it give us? Absolutely nothing. GDP it's just one of the metrics. We probably want to look at GDP in conjunction with information about unemployment, with information about the median salary, about information with affordability. There's just so many different factors that comes to it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I have not been really familiar with the market. I have not experienced it firsthand in the past 10 years. So You know,
Yeah.
we
No,
both we
understood.
only see only repeat what we read in the reports.
Got it. I know you also worked in the towards the side of venture capital. What would you say, like, or the qualities you look into early stage startups before the firm decides to invest into them?
Yes, so yes, I have been a partner at Everywhere Venture. Everywhere Venture is a small venture capital firm started by excuse me, started by two founders, New York-based entrepreneurs and economists, very established couple, Scott Hartley and scrape the name of the other partner. Oh dear, and Jenny Fleming. Yes, uh, the venture capital kind of started small and then grew very fast globally. We have presence across all the continents now, right now. And one day, Scott, um, me and Scott go long back, and he reached out saying, presenting the opportunity and how they want to invest in what they want to invest in. I was actually exploring opportunities around government public sector, and that was around the COVID time. So again, the concept of future work was very hot. We try to build up an offering and figure out where the market may go, where the new trends may go, where the applications of AI and technology can actually come in handy in developing these type of solutions, and what can the future of health, ultimately health, money, and work. Those are the three elements that we're looking at. Where can AI, for example, contribute to what sort of solutions? And so we have been looking for startups in those particular three areas, so which is again finance, future of money, healthcare, future of health, and work, future of work across. And to your other questions, what are we looking for? First and foremost, it's a solution, right? What are you trying to achieve? What is that solution going to do? How is that solution going to revolutionize what's done today? Second one is the quality of investors. So who is quality of the owners or the management? Who are those people? Are they easy to work with? Are they capable? Are they smart enough? Are they capable of taking business to where we want to go? And I would say those are probably the only two leading criteria that we can go into deeper discussions about the money. But as in every case, first of all, it's all about the solution. If you have a great idea, we'll help you build it.
So has it ever happened that somebody pitched an idea to you, a founder or owner, and in an instant you were like, you're solving a great problem and we would love to invest without even
Absolutely.
thinking about it?
Absolutely. Oh yes. I'll give you an idea. It is, as a matter of fact, it's an Indian-based company who looked at the demographics. It was a very simple business case. They looked at the demographics, looked at how young the Indian population is, but how in a couple of years how they will start aging, and at the same time how insufficient the elderly care system in India is, and considering the demographic trends, people living more and more separately, not in conjunct families, it will become an issue. So they were able to foresee an issue before it occurred, and then tailored a solution, a technology-based solution that will address this issue in some time and probably at some point create some serious revenues for the company. So we were sold on the idea, and it was all about figuring out the business plan. To be honest, even the founders at that point did not really have an idea how much money they need, how much it's going to cost over a long period of time, because again, we're not looking at immediate revenues. We're probably looking at 10 to 20 years. But the solution and the problem they were trying to solve was so unique, so innovative, and at the same time so obvious. We decided to jump in.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you about its name is Khyal, right? Khyal.
I can't confirm, I can't deny.
Okay, okay. Actually, I was gonna, I guess then you cannot disclose it anymore. But I would like to ask you about what are some common challenges you face when implementing technology into transformation projects in business?
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna now remove my venture capital hat and put on my my CEO or kind of a consulting hat. We do business in healthcare mostly, but also in government and public sector. The biggest, I would say there are three biggest challenges. First of all, it is it is maybe the saturation of every organization. There's so many things happening in an environment these days that specifically public sector companies struggle to keep up. And I'm saying struggle to keep up with the basics. Look at Microsoft. Everybody's using Microsoft suite of programs. Microsoft just retired Office 2016. A lot of companies were still running Office 2016, probably still are. Microsoft is retiring Windows 10. next year, okay, in October, a lot of companies are still running Windows 10. Probably most of the companies are running Windows 10. That means that in the next 12 years, there is going to be a race of moving to Windows 11, right? Those are just the two examples. That change, the impact of that change on our organization financially, but also from the human capability perspective, is going to be huge. And that will probably have to take a precedent of any other technological changes. And I did not even start talking about implementing simple solutions like, ChatGPT into everyday work that can actually save a lot of money. So the amount of work that needs to be done, and the saturation and the change fatigue, as I call it, is definitely one of them. Second element I would say is simply the slowly disappearing, but still the fact that technology is not perceived as an enabler, but as a hindrance to delivering services. People still culturally like to work in a certain way, where technology is not an integral element of the process that enables the process to flow from one business cell to another, right? Technology very often is still perceived as something that needs to be there for the sake of emails, for example, right? We're not, especially in the public sector, we're not in a technology embraced environment fully. And that human element, that resistance, is definitely part of the problem. The third one, and that is probably very specific to my services, is simply lack of skilled workers. There's just so much work to do, so many requirements, but there's not enough talent, especially in Vancouver. Looking at it from somebody who is constantly looking for new hires, for appropriate candidates, there's never enough. It's changing. The companies are opening up to providing more flexible working solution. We're looking at very often Canada as a pool of candidates as opposed to just Vancouver or just BC. But it's changing pretty slow.
And what kind of qualities you look into the future prospects you are trying to hire?
Wow. Okay. You'll be surprised, but I'm not looking for anything spectacular. First and foremost, and this may come as a surprise, but it's work ethics, right? I'm not looking for somebody with 10 years of experience or 5 years of experience or somebody who's been working for McKinsey. To be honest, I don't care. It's about work ethics first and foremost. It's about intellectual curiosity. It's about the ability to take on a task and solve the problem. Sometimes sometimes people ask me, including my parents and my family, who still probably don't really know what is it that I do. What is consulting? Consulting is the art of solving problems, right? Whether this is a technology problem, or it's a business problem, or it is a problem of getting from point A to point B, or a problem of planning your backpacking trip across a country or a continent, it is something that requires certain skills: and analytics, research, project management, risk management, quick thinking, building in flexibility into a process, etc., etc., etc. Those are the sort of skills that are required for me to start working with somebody. Everything else can be taught. I can't teach somebody to be on time. I can't teach somebody to be punctual. I can't teach somebody to be able to have a good rapport with the customer. Those are the inherent skill of a human being, of a professional. And only on top of those, we can start building the hard skills, which are,
No, I get that.
those can be replenished.
Yeah,
That's the easy part.
so it's basically like you are not requiring technical expertise, but more on the how you present yourself as a person, what your work ethic is, how you deal with clients, and how you're trying to solve daily problems.
Correct. And more than anything, it's probably the last one. How do you solve your daily problems? If I give you a problem to solve, will you be able to solve it? And if I give you a problem that you in the area that you're completely unfamiliar with, you can either sit on the chair and do absolutely nothing, or come to me and say, I can't do it, or you can open Google and start researching and see how far you can take it. And if you go with the latter option, you're the guy that I'm looking for.
Got it. And you brought up Microsoft and them retiring the Windows 10. Do you think they're on the path to same as Apple, like the way Apple brings new phones, the old phones get outdated on the software side?
You know what? If you asked me that 3 months ago, I would probably have a different opinion, and if you asked me that 3 years ago, I would still have a different opinion. Windows 10 was there for us to stay forever, right? We were supposed to have feature updates every year, or every six months. Now we have Windows 11. There are rumors about Windows 12. Nobody really knows what they're trying to do over there. Again, let's keep in mind that just like Apple, Microsoft are all public companies. Ultimately, what they care about most is not the betterment of user experience, but it is their bottom line. It is the value for shareholders that they create. And if Microsoft decides to realizes that Windows 13 or 14 will make their stock prices go up by 10% as opposed to 8%, they're going to introduce this. As
Perfect.
sad as it sounds, that's all it is about.
That makes sense. And what are some not even common, what are some emerging trends you see when it comes to business transformation and putting systems into place, whether it comes to consulting and solving problems?
You know what? I'm not going to be original on this one. It is AI. Everything AI sells these days. We were talking 10 years ago, we were talking maybe even 5 years ago, we were talking about globalization, and everything was all about globalization. A couple of years earlier, we were talking, what was the last biggest trend? Oh, yes, blockchain and NFTs. Where are those, right? What happened? Now we're talking about AI, and AI, I have a feeling it's here to stay. It has a potential to revolutionize many things. I'm talking anything from patient records all the way to how individuals send emails. I'm not sure if you're using ChatGPT, but if you're not, then probably you should, because everybody should, because it's just so easy. It saves you so much time, and it saves you so much effort, and it's there and it's free, right?
Agreed, agreed.
Nothing stops us from using this. So this is the trend. Let's incorporate it into everything we do, and the returns can be phenomenal, and it's just so simple.
Yeah, no, I was just having this discussion with my friend. Like, just by ChatGPT launching, they have made us get it used to using ChatGPT so much that we barely ever go to Google now. And no wonder why Google is upset of ChatGPT. And today we see, like, in the WWDC, like the event by Apple, they kind of like have partnership with ChatGPT to integrate Siri with it. Yeah.
I don't think that is the case, because Apple just in the last couple of days they announced their own AI based assistant, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a continuation of Siri or what is it, but they just announced that, I believe, in their 18th version of their OS there will be a functionality like that included, but apparently they have some ridiculous hardware requirements for this one. Anyway, it's just a topic I read about this morning. So to be continued, but certainly Apple has a lot of catching up to do, because Siri these days sounds very primitive.
Yeah, but what you think, like, now ChatGPT has 4.0 version, which is much more effective than the 3.0, the free version one. Do you think every company is moving towards implementing ChatGPT into their systems to be more faster, more precise, and create better solutions for the people?
I think they should. I
Okay.
think they should, because the returns can be phenomenal. At the same time, I understand that there may be a lot of resistance. Talent teams, human resources teams, will not like the idea of every email in a company being sent by ChatGPT. There's still a lot of problems with that, problems around potential liabilities, etc. That all needs to be figured out. The risk management element is there. Sharing information is there. I know that, for example, many of my clients who are public sector clients will simply not agree to do this, because the servers and the processing power and everything behind is located outside of Canada, and government organizations are not allowed to transfer certain type of information outside of Canada. So lots of things that still need to be figured out. However, especially for us individuals, it's out there, and it's very easy to implement. And as to your question, yes, companies will start doing it organizationally as a whole, may easily get a competitive advantage over others if they decide to do it sooner rather than later.
And how will you say, because as of this moment, at least me, I network with a lot of accounting firms. They say we are implementing AI and let's just take AI into our systems, but they always encourage, like, the client relationship part is the most important, and even though AI will be integrated, you will still have to present yourself to solve problems of the clients. Do you think, is there any threat to the workforce, or is just a misconception between the people?
It's a great question, and I don't think anybody has a clear and obvious answer to this one. I think Sam Altman changed his mind on this one 3 times in the past year. There's definitely impact to workforce. There's definitely impact to how business is made. I agree that the human element will never fully disappear. It's always about shaking hands, even if it comes to signing documents or meeting somebody for lunch. This cannot be replaced by ChatGPT. I like to think of ChatGPT as a facade for human interaction. When we send emails, when we chat, etc., that can all be done by AI. Great, but it will never replace humans, at least not in the current form. And to your earlier comment, when and how, we still don't know. AI is just such a catch-all phrase these days. There's so many solutions in place. We're talking a lot about ChatGPT, but it's just a small part of it. There's actually much more solutions out there that are, and they keep popping up. So every company, every organization, depending on their needs and how they serve their clients, will probably have something interesting to implement. And it's just a matter of time that we will realize how far our work has actually changed as a result of that one. And that happened to a certain degree with outsourcing. That happened to a certain degree with remote working, with the concept of future of work and the robotic process automation, etc., etc. But this is the big thing.
Got it. Changing topics a little bit, what would you say are some principles for effective leadership and team management?
Oh wow. Okay. Leadership and those are difficult questions. To be honest, I don't know. I should probably bring in somebody that I work with, and they could answer those questions.
How about I rephrase a little bit. So when
Yeah.
it came to you starting a business, how did you went about building a team and then managing a team? What were the most challenging parts of it, and what do you think, as per you, was easier to build a team?
The most important thing to me in managing a team and building a team is just listening to people and making sure that you're understood, building that sort of rapport, building that sort of communication, and just simply making sure that the expectations are set, that you're all rowing towards the same direction in the boat, that you're working towards the same goal, and that you share some sort of passion to what you do. And as long as you keep the communication channel open up and down, there's not a single problem that you can't solve. You can provide feedback, you can receive feedback, you can bring in and onboard new people, and you can let people go. As long as you do it with dignity and with respect and using mutual communication and simple understanding, there are great ways to do this, right? A lot of it also is about flexibility. People expect flexibility, and I allow flexibility because I also expect flexibility from my clients, and it kind of works both ways. That fairness, that respect, that mutual understanding, and those basic human principles are probably much more important than any leadership strategy or frameworks that you can put in place. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want the same thing. We want to be treated with respect. We want to achieve great things. We want to be celebrated. We want to be provided with feedback, and we want to move up. We want to be promoted. We want to, I'll say it. We want to become richer, right? We all have the same goals. Let's understand it. Let's appreciate it, let's work towards the same thing.
Got it. And I also know, like, outside of your professional career, you also are involved in sports like martial arts and snowboarding. Do you think those kind of helped you become who you are today?
Certainly. I believe so. Glad you mentioned martial arts. When I was working in Toronto for a Big Four consulting firm, it's consulting lifestyle. It's not very easy, right? You kind of get to put in a lot of hours. 50 hours a week. 50 hours week is a very short week. When it exceeds 60 hours, it becomes a bit hectic. I needed something to reset my brain and to put me in a place where I don't have to think about work, right? Build up my mindfulness, build up my ability to reset and get a little bit of perspective. And that's when somehow somebody recommended martial arts. I was never really into that kind of stuff because it seemed like awfully violent, which I know it's not. So I joined a kickboxing class and then Muay Thai class, and kind of my passion for the sport evolved to the point that at some point at the age of 40 years old, I became a competitive fighter, which is an entirely different story, but it definitely helps you find some safe space and some perspective that you really need at work. No matter what you do, you need something to get you out of it, whether that's sports, whether that's music, whether that's meditation and yoga, or anything else, something that is very different from what you do. Otherwise you will burn out. In our profession, in technology, in today's world where we're bombarded with everything from our work requirements to to social media, news, sports, etc., etc., etc. We're trying to keep up with so many things. We need something that will help us stay sane and prevent us from burning out too quickly. For me, that was sports and that was martial arts.
And has it ever happened that when you were working in Toronto, like you went to the office with a bruise on your face because you are involved in these sports?
It happened in Vancouver more than it happened in Toronto, but yes, it did. My most of my clients and definitely my entire team knows what I'm into, and sometimes they frown upon this, but in general, people are very understanding.
Got it. And what has, share with us like any memorable adventure or trip that kind of like is in your memories which you can never forget because you have traveled a lot.
Wow. It's like I just got back from a sailing race around Bowen Island. So I just got back from this one yesterday evening. So that was 3 days on a boat. Very, very memorable. But thinking about something unforgettable. Maybe a number of years ago, along with a couple of friends, we traveled on motorcycles to Nubra Valley and in India, in northwest India, and crossing the Great Himalayan range. We traveled on motorcycles for thousands of kilometers over, crossing high mountain passes that are located actually higher than the Everest base camp. If you think that motorcycles should probably not be going that high, you're probably right. It's just that adventurous traveling is something that has always been part of me, and again, you know, I try to follow the old advice where you work hard and you play harder. That's just yet another way to make that happen.
No, I can definitely relate with. I went on this motorcycle trip in Maharashtra. It's like a middle part of India, where Bombay is located, right? So we went to do rafting. Before that, it was a whole motorcycle ride. My first time in the mountains. I was a bit timid, but that's one of those moments I can never forget.
Absolutely, and for what I know, this not only is a great memory, but also teaches you a lot about yourself, helps you understand yourself as a personality, as a human being a little bit more. And that also pays dividends in how you act as a professional, how you conduct yourself, and helps you understand better what is it that you know that you want and what is it that you're trying to achieve.
I mean, you are so adventurous. So anything is on your bucket list you wanna accomplish in coming years?
Um, Professionally, I'm still trying to figure out how I can organically grow this business without really becoming a corporation. You know what I mean? I always try to put quality over quantity. So I'm not trying to build up a monstrosity or in terms of revenues. That's not my point. And personally, yes, there's a couple of places I would definitely love to visit. The next trip that I already have kind of planned and scheduled, that is going to be the Exuma Keys, which is part of the islands of Bahamas. Again, we're just gonna go for a sailing trip and try to explore those shallow waters over there. Starting from Nassau, the old pirate capital of the world. That's just something that that I have a historical hobby, and I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to pirates and everything pirates related. So it is going to be an opportunity for me to go there, explore, see some of those places that I read about and I heard about, and I saw in Treasure Island or in Black Sails. Great show, by the way. If you haven't watched that, Black Sails.
Black cells, okay. And coming back to a little bit more towards student side and young entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their own, let's say, their own consulting firm?
Yeah, so probably if you're a student and you want to start a consulting firm, I'm gonna say don't. If you want to start a consulting firm as a student, you're probably doing something wrong. Okay, so don't. If you want to be a consultant, if you want to start your consulting firm down the day sometime, just go and work for UI, Deloitte, KPMG, McKinsey, one of those firms. Learn what consulting is about, and give yourself some time to think. And then if you want to do what I do, hit me up on LinkedIn and we can talk. If you want to start a business in general, and if you have a great idea, then just do it. Create a business plan and start doing this. Don't just send business plans to every investor that you can find on LinkedIn, to every venture capital. They get a lot of that. Most of the time, including myself, we don't read just business plans, right? Put a little bit more effort into it. Take it to a place, take it as far as you can go before you start asking for money. There should be that entire organic growth should have a point to which you can take it. And go for it. try today. Again, I think it's a old Chinese saying that the best time to start a business was 10 years ago, and the second best one is today. Um,
And what are some like financials you look for when someone comes and pitch an idea to you that you and because of course I'm coming from a mindset of a Shark Tank where they come pitch the idea and they ask for a the money or the amount. So like what kind of financials you look for when someone pitches an idea to you?
yeah, I mean, we are a small VC. We are what you would call an angel investor, right? We rarely invest over 50 to $100,000 in a business. So if your requirements are $6 million because you want to become a $100 million company in 6 months, then probably we're just not the place for you. Again, we will look at the idea more than anything else. Is there something in it for us? Is there something in it for you? Is there something unique and something that makes it special? If it is, wonderful. And other than that, of course, the business plan has to be financially sound, right? We need to see that if you're asking for $100,000, we know most likely you will burn through that $100,000 in the next 6 months, more or less, right? So will a business be able to start delivering revenues and start creating revenues in that time frame, or is there going to be another round of financing? So, again, all of it put together,
Because
and
I
we
mean,
can talk about the money.
I'm thinking like it's a business which has its own risk and a lot of risk. So what are some key, if you can just share one or two things that you put into practice that kind of minimizes the risk?
Hmm. You know what? We don't have a risk management framework, if that's what you're asking for. There are always risks. Probably investing in startups is one of the most risky way of investing your money. The returns are very rare, and big returns are extremely rare. For most of us, the opportunity to work with young companies, with founders, and creating that kind of the partners, the LPs community, as we call it, limited partners community, is a reward on its own. And if we happen to create a financial reward for ourselves as partners, even better. Um, so we understand the risks, and we are accepting it, and we also understand that, and we hope that this sense of risk appreciation is also translates to the founders that we work with, and that they at the same time are respectful with our money, but at the same time, we don't want to put too much pressure and expect returns at all costs. That's not the point of financing businesses. We kind of really want to hit one or two jackpots as opposed to getting a little penny back from everything that we invest.
And how much, let's say someone starts it and have their 5 year journey into consulting firm and also doing VC on the side, like how much revenue they can generate in terms of 5 years? Like
In
you can give
VC,
you can give a range if you want.
I can give you a range. I can tell you how much money I got out of my VC, and it's zero. Honestly, if you want to start investing in startups and join a venture capital as a partner, you should strip yourself from any sort of thinking about the returns in any predictable time frame. You're not doing this for the money. You will not. Mostly, it's very likely you will not make money. So don't put it into any financial predictions. Please don't. You will be very disappointed. So if you're going into consulting, that's going to be if you have a stable job, that is gonna be your main source of revenue for sure.
Got it. And is there any books, podcasts that you particularly listen to that helps you get going?
Nothing professional. Again, I feel like I'm very very much overloaded by the professional discussions and the talks and the amount of hours I spend in professional discussions. So when it comes to books or podcasts, I try to kind of clear my head and stay away. But if there's one book I would recommend, it's a book actually written by our managing partner and the founder of Everywhere Ventures, by Scott Harley. It's a book called The Fuzzy and the Techie, and it's a book about the fact that people with soft skills, with great soft skills, and with people coming from the world of science may actually dominate the technology world. So and how the soft skills are actually the key to leading technology transformation. So a bit of a spin on what we understand about technology. Fuzzy and a techie. I would recommend that to everybody.
What do you have to say about the Canadian startup ecosystem?
Oh, for that we would always, I can tell you that is making that is doing 60% good, but that will mean absolutely nothing. We would need a benchmark to really say what is how it's doing. It's doing very well, or not, or maybe. To be honest, I really don't know. I think it's doing better than it was. I think we have, even though post-COVID, that spike kind of post-COVID spike kind of came down, and all of a sudden everybody seems to be slightly more conservative. With their money, we are still at a decent place economically. Canada is a strong, rich country with a lot of funding available to everybody who has great ideas. We're better than most of the places on the planet. We're not the US, and we will never be the US, and we probably don't even want to be the US. But for everybody that has ideas and that has enough of persistence to pursue those ideas, I'm certain that there will be a lot of opportunities and to get what they want to get out of the system.
And if you were to be appointed as a government official in charge of enhancing the Canada's startup ecosystem, what decision would you make?
Oh, you know what? I would probably quit. I wouldn't know where to start, and I don't think I know enough about this ecosystem. You know, it's very easy to say pump more money, give more money, invest in accelerators, and invest in startups. But there's got to be an element of fiscal responsibility to everything we do, and I'm very thankful that this is not my decision to make.